Revealed. 4 shocking carbs over 60 should avoid, plus 4 incredible foods that transform your health. Sarah's fingers shook as she clicked on the article, her heart racing not just with curiosity, but a deep-seated fear that gnawed at her mind. The words leaped from the screen, echoing the grief and guilt she carried since she lost her son. He had fallen prey to the poor eating habits that surrounded their family for generations. Losing him was a wound that shed no tears, but bled constantly, reminding her every day of the fragility of life. Now, the thought of her spirited granddaughter, Lily, succumbing to the same fate filled Sarah with dread. The kitchen felt like a prison, its once joyful atmosphere now suffocated by the weight of unspoken worries. For decades, their family had cherished Sunday dinners filled with fried chicken and buttery mashed potatoes, each bite a bittersweet reminder of love intertwined with danger. But that very love now felt like a noose tightening around her throat. A list of shocking carbs flashed in her mind. White bread, sugary cereals, potato chips. Could these old friends be laying the groundwork for another tragedy? If she didn't act, would she lose Lily too? The urgency to amend their diet surged within her, begging her to toss aside the beloved high-carb staples that had anchored their family's heritage. As Sarah set out to reshape their meals, a storm brewed on the horizon. Lily, only a teenager, now felt the pull of peer pressure as strongly as any tidal wave. "Why can't we just be normal?" she spat one evening, the aftermath of yet another vegetable-laden dinner lingering in the air. The kitchen, the sacred space of their history, became a battlefield, its heart now echoing with Lily's rebellious voice instead of laughter. Sarah's resolve wavered as she watched her granddaughter, once so vibrant and eager to learn family recipes, now resistant and resentful. A palpable tension festered between them. Was she suffocating Lily with her needs? The thought churned inside Sarah, each iteration squeezing her heart tighter, and the question loomed. Had she gone too far? She inhaled, the faint scent of sautéed kale mixing with the memories of her son's laughter at the dinner table, sinking her deeper into despair. "It's not fair," Lily's anguished words sliced through Sarah, raw and painful. The agony of memories, the laughter shared, and the meals that marked their companionship, now tangled with an urgency to save what remained of their family. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her thoughts raced and panic welled within her. Sarah felt the pressure encasing her. Was she merely a placeholder, trying to reshape a legacy that had once built a bond now cracking at the seams? Facing societal judgment as an elderly woman trying to raise a teenager made her feel frail in her determination. She could practically hear the whispers of the townsfolk questioning her choices. Yet, there she was, fighting for Lily's health like a sturdy oak in a storm, roots entrenched deep. Fear coursed through her veins. What if this was the fight she couldn't win? What if this time, losing didn't just mean losing a recipe, but the very essence of family? In that moment of chaos and unresolved tension, Sarah realized the battle was no longer just about food. It was about the legacy they wished to carry forward. Could they navigate this tangled web of grief, health, and love without losing one another? Standing amidst the mess of sautéed greens and broken dreams, they faced a chasm of change, both terrifying and necessary. As uncertainty swirled around them, Sarah's heart bled with the ever-growing fear that some legacies were meant to be broken, and this one, theirs, might be slipping through her fingers like sand. The following morning, the sun filtered its golden light through the kitchen window, but rather than illuminating the space with warmth, it seemed to spotlight the tension hovering between Sarah and Lily. The air was thick with unspoken words, and they both shifted uncomfortably in the presence of the kitchen's once comforting appliances. Sarah's resolve flickered in the cool morning light. Could she really sustain the changes she wanted to implement? Striking a balance between her fears and Lily's frustrations would require a new strategy, the kind she had avoided for far too long. As she sipped her coffee, contemplating the day ahead, she recognized that simply enforcing a diet would breed resentment rather than cooperation. The weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders like an anvil. Determined to confront the emotional rift, Sarah decided they needed to talk, not about food, but about feelings. Preparing her heart for vulnerability, she called Lily to the table. "We need to discuss how we both feel about the meals we've been having," she prompted, her voice taut with apprehension. Lily, arms crossed defiantly, snapped back at her. "What's the point? You're stuck in your ways, and it's ruining everything." The honesty in her words was like daggers, yet it revealed a deep well of hurt. Sarah felt each syllable resonate through her, stirring a whirlwind of emotions. "I'm trying to protect you, Lily. I lost your uncle to bad choices, and I don't want to lose you, too." The truth spilled from her mouth, raw and deliberate. No longer could she shield herself or her granddaughter behind a facade of culinary tradition. For a moment, silence blanketed the room. Then, tears filled Lily's eyes, morphing skepticism into a flicker of understanding. "But it's hard. All my friends have pizza and cookies, and I can't even have a bite without thinking about it. It feels like you're judging me," she admitted, her voice trembling. The heart-wrenching realization struck Sarah. Lily felt as though her deepest desires and joys were being stripped away. This was a pivotal moment, a catalyst for change in their relationship. Instead of pushing her granddaughter away, she needed to invite her in, to navigate this change as partners rather than adversaries. "I've been too focused on what to remove instead of what to add," Sarah confessed, her heart quickening with urgency. "What if we could make some meals together, ones that are healthy but also fun? You could help me choose the recipes. What do you say?" Instantly, she sensed a shift in Lily. The tension loosened as curiosity took the place of resentment. "You mean you'd really let me pick? I could make my own meals?" "Yes, it's your body and your life. I want to be here to support you, but it has to be a team effort," Sarah said, the warmth of hope igniting something inside her chest. As they began to sketch out a plan, the flow of conversation softened the sharp edges of their conflict. Together, they looked up recipes, discussing each ingredient. The hesitance that marred their earlier meals began to dissolve. For every healthy substitute Sarah introduced, Lily brought in alternatives that honored her taste and preferences. And just like that, the rigid walls of their kitchen transformed from a battleground into a workshop of collaboration. Sarah felt a portal of possibilities open before her. Not only was she changing their diet, but she was also weaving a tighter bond with her granddaughter. Yet, as they shared laughs and ideas, Sarah felt a pang of worry deep in her gut. Would this new approach hold when faced with external pressures? What awaited them as they ventured into the uncharted waters of collaboration? And could the two of them sustain this newfound dynamic in the face of resistance from both family and friends? She glanced at the recipe on the screen, a medley of colors and textures that represented hope, but an unsettling question loomed. Would the ghosts of old habits return to haunt them, overshadowing their progress? As the days passed, their kitchen became a vibrant tapestry woven with the laughter and creativity of shared meal prep. Sarah felt invigorated by the prospect of a new routine. She realized that this adventure wasn't just about food, it was about redefining her role as a guardian and ally. Each evening, they would experiment in the kitchen, surrounded by fragrant herbs and wholesome ingredients. Every triumph, like a successful quinoa salad or a low-sugar smoothie, sounded like music to her ears. Yet, Sarah grappled with discomfort. During these joyous moments, the specter of doubt lurked in the corners of her mind. What if she misstepped? What if Lily's friends still wielded the allure of their indulgences, beckoning her back to unhealthy choices? Could all their efforts be undone? One afternoon, a sudden realization struck Sarah. While they were eagerly scrolling through the colorful food blogs together, she noted something hidden within herself. A long-forgotten passion for cooking and an opportunity to connect with herself. As her fingertips grazed the recipes, they intermingled with childhood memories of her own grandmother's kitchen, aromas, laughter, and the joy of creating. Sarah took this revelation a step further. She began photo-documenting their culinary creations, embracing an idea to share their journey on a social media platform. This was uncharted territory, a leap into a space rife with scrutiny. The thought spurred both excitement and fear. Would the world judge her choices? Would they roast the images of their hard work? Determined, she opened an account, promptly posting pictures of their finest dishes. Over time, supportive comments flowed in. Friends, family, and even strangers applauded their creativity. But with that affirmation came a wave of anxiety. The platform also exposed her to voices that criticized the very choices she believed were right. A comment doubted if healthy could ever truly taste good, while another questioned the rationality behind their new love for vegetable-based meals. That evening, as she sat at the kitchen table, doubts erupted like a tempest. "What if this is too much? Am I leading her astray?" Sarah blurted out, the tremors of her insecurities surfacing. Lily looked up from her homework, confusion knitting her brow. "You're not ruining anything, Grandma. We're doing great. Just look at the things we've made." "It's not just about us, though," Sarah replied, gesturing toward her phone, its screen lit with comments. "People are watching. What if they think we're failing?" "Who cares what they think?" Lily shot back, her tone surprisingly defiant. "We're having fun and eating better. They can't take that away from us." Reassured by her granddaughter's conviction, Sarah realized it was more than just meals. It was redefining their bonds, taking control of the narrative. The digital sphere provided both challenges and a mirror to their progress. Perhaps she could take these external pressures and channel them into inner strength rather than fear. The next day, spurred by newfound resolve, Sarah sought to involve Lily deeper in this venture, encouraging her to take the reins in their posts. Lily's enthusiasm soared as she began creating videos of their culinary repertoire. Each clip reflected the joy and laughter of their kitchen escapades, and soon their small following evolved into a supportive community, a collective that embraced their triumphs and offered solace during mishaps. Yet as Sarah observed their growing platform, a new anxiety gnawed at her. The potential to influence others presented a weighty burden. What if they did not hold true? What if they faltered back into unhealthy habits amidst the public scrutiny? The specter of failure lingered, a stark reminder of the fragility of their newfound partnership. As they prepared for an upcoming meal post, the thought gripped her. Was she truly ready to share their struggles and victories? With the camera rolling, would the narrative of resilience and revelation shine, or would it crumble under the harsh light of expectation? The pressure mounted. With an overwhelming blend of hope and trepidation swirling inside her, Sarah inhaled deeply, preparing herself to face the journey ahead. But this time, she wasn't alone. Together, they would step into the unknown, armed with vulnerability and an evolving connection. What awaited them as they launched their shared stories into the world? Would they forge their identities in this landscape of exposure or falter under scrutiny? The answer lay just beyond the horizon. Sarah stared at the camera, a slight tremor in her hands as she adjusted the angle for the perfect shot. The kitchen was awash in the golden glow of late afternoon sun, a warm reminder of their fleeting moments together. In the back of her mind, the doubts surged anew. Would viewers focus on the meals, or would they glance through their reality, seeking drama rather than authenticity? Each click of the camera shutter felt heavy with weighty implications. The stakes had seemingly changed overnight. Lily, bright and energetic, flitted around, gathering supplies and playfully suggesting features for their video. Her confidence remained a stark contrast to Sarah's unease. Watching her granddaughter, Sarah reflected on the dichotomy between their ages. Lily, with her youthful belief in the power of creativity, was unencumbered by the weight of approval, while Sarah felt every ounce of expectation pressing against her. It was in this clash that Sarah recognized an unsettling truth. She needed to confront her insecurities to fully embrace this journey, not just for herself, but for Lily. Okay, let's start with the quinoa salad before we dive into that avocado toast mystery, Lily said, her excitement infectious. Sarah couldn't help but smile, even as her heart raced. Her mind raced, contemplating the implications of every word she would soon share. Each recipe wasn't just a collection of ingredients. It was a narrative, a chance to reveal both their struggles and triumphs. As they blended the ingredients, Sarah's apprehension morphed into determination. She would speak not only about their culinary successes, but also about the missteps, the moments when brownies beckoned and cravings loomed large. Perhaps this was the authenticity that the world truly craved. Vulnerability wrapped in resilience. Within the momentum of creating, a spark ignited within her. This was more than mere food preparation. It was about redefining failure and success. What if she shared not just their joy of cooking, but also laid bare their journey? The trials of choosing vegetables over fried snacks, of skipping dessert for a healthy alternative, could resonate. Her life was intertwined with every dish, each a step toward reclaiming her authenticity. "Can we talk about how you fell asleep while making that cauliflower pizza?" Lily burst out, laughter bubbling in her voice. Sarah chuckled, memories flooding back of the chaotic moments that peppered their culinary implements with tales far richer than perfection. Yes, it was their imperfections that made them real. As laughter intertwined with the aroma of fresh basil and roasted garlic, the exhilaration surged. No longer was she simply an adult in a kitchen. She was a role model, undeterred by expectations, focused squarely on enjoying each moment with her granddaughter. Pouring her heart into the camera, she would invite everyone into their kitchen, flaws and victories alike. But as they wrapped the filming session, Sarah's thoughts spiraled into a whirlwind of excitement and dread. She stopped, looking at Lily. What if they don't get it? What if they don't see how it's changed us? Lily stopped, narrowing her eyes thoughtfully. Who cares? It's our journey. We know it's real. The reassurance lingered as they turned off the camera. Suddenly, Sarah found herself on the threshold of both self-acceptance and exposure. The narratives she created had the possibility of transcending her fears, transforming both herself and her audience. Yet she knew that vulnerability came with peril. She was baring her soul to judgment. Could they navigate this intricate dance of truth and perception without losing themselves? As she reflected on this challenge, the tension in her chest tightened. The road was still shrouded in uncertainty, and the stakes were only just beginning to rise. What unforeseen obstacles would they face as they prepared to launch their story into a world eager for narratives that weighed authenticity against scrutiny? Sarah could only ponder as the camera turned off, illuminating a new chapter that called for bravery. As the camera went dark, Sarah felt a weight lifted, yet replaced with another burden. The pressure of expectation now squared firmly upon her shoulders. She glanced at Lily, whose innocent optimism served both as a comfort and a stark reminder of how far Sarah had to go. Navigating this shared endeavor, 2 generations entwined in pursuit of creativity, could lead to profound growth, or it could unravel under the scrutiny of the digital world. The kitchen, once a sanctuary, became a theater for scrutiny. Each ingredient they stirred and every story they shared now carried the potential to resonate or to alienate. With a deep breath, Sarah wiped her sweaty palms on her apron. There was no going back. The path forward required courage, not just for herself, but also for Lily. Her granddaughter deserved an example of grappling with fear head-on. "Let's clean up and plan the next episode," Sarah suggested, feeling the need to ground herself in responsibility. They cleared the counter of bowls and ingredients, and as she tidied up, she pondered the themes they could explore in their next installment. What facets of their cooking journey could they expand upon? Perhaps a focus on battling cravings or strategies to simplify healthy eating. Each thought ebbed and flowed, creating a mental roadmap that pulsed with excitement and anxiety. "Why don't we talk about our snack pantry?" Lily's voice broke through Sarah's musings. "We can show how to create a healthy fallback, like swapping chips for roasted chickpeas." "Brilliant idea," Sarah exclaimed, feeling the nerves recede slightly at the thought of expounding on practical yet approachable ideas. The concept tapped into their recent experiences of making healthier choices without sacrificing joy. Yet, Sarah's mind diverted back to the impending vulnerability. What if viewers were judgmental in ways she hadn't anticipated? Would she share the fear she felt scrolling through endless comments, grappling with the fear of public opinion? Or should they focus solely on the how-tos? "We can also mention the times we've indulged a little too much," she murmured half to herself, recalling the ice cream binge they'd enjoyed post-workout and how it tasted all the better for the laughter it sparked. Lily nodded thoughtfully. "Let's keep it real. People want to know it's okay to have those moments." "Right," Sarah said, a newfound sense of purpose solidifying. It's time the world recognized that imperfection is part of the journey. As the sun sank lower, the light shifted in the kitchen, casting an ethereal glow that reminded Sarah of the possibilities this venture held. Amidst creating content, she was rediscovering her voice, but also finding solace in the authenticity of her experiences. Yet, she couldn't shake off the persistent doubts crowding her mind. Despite the revelations and the renewed strength, could her efforts hold up under public scrutiny? That night, as Sarah lay in bed, her thoughts raced. She envisioned the video's outcome, the potential backlash intermingled with excitement for success. It was a tightrope walk between exposure and acceptance. They would be raw and authentic, but was she truly ready to navigate the judgment that came with it? The duality of originality and risk loomed. As Sarah weighed her options, she made a silent vow, one that ignited a flicker of determination. She would show the world the true face of imperfection. With this resolution, a careful plan began to unfurl in her mind. The next morning would launch not only their cooking ideas, but a deeper exploration of the mental battles tied to wellness, the unseen struggles that transcend recipes. But as Sarah's eyelids grew heavy, sinking into sleep, a troubling thought whispered in the night. What if she faced unforeseen opposition that would challenge not only her newfound resolve, but her very sense of self? The next chapter awaited. The bright morning light poured into the kitchen, illuminating the mess from last night's endeavor. Sarah stood in front of the sink, the reflective surface providing her a chance to confront not only the dirty dishes, but also the doubts swirling within her. Each plate scrubbed was like a step taken towards fortifying her purpose. Today was the day they would share their story, raw and unscripted, and she felt the weight of it pressing against her chest. "Are you ready?" Lily's voice floated in, full of youthful enthusiasm, yet laced with the tension of uncertainty that Sarah felt mirroring her own. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't entirely reach her eyes. As they prepared each ingredient, she felt the excitement begin to puncture the veil of anxiety surrounding her. Should she dive into her own vulnerabilities? Or would that swing the spotlight a touch too much onto her rather than the message they were hoping to convey? Balancing authenticity with the desire for their project to be relatable was maddening, yet necessary. They began collecting nuts, whole grains, and indeed, the vibrant chickpeas. Each selection represented a choice, a small declaration about what they championed. Yet, as she felt the weight of the camera lurking in the corner, lingering like a watchful guardian, she couldn't ignore that nagging inner critic reminding her of potential backlash. "Let's start with the pantry," Sarah said, tapping into the surge of adrenaline. As she spoke, the words began to flow, accompanied by Lily's eager interjections. "We all know snacks can be our Achilles heel," she stated, recalling the struggles they both faced during late-night cravings, pouring chips into bowls as if they could drown out insecurities with salt and crunch. It's okay to have those moments, but knowing how to pivot is the key. "This is why roasted chickpeas are such a game changer," Lily chimed in with a passionate nod that resonated with Sarah's own conviction. As the camera rolled, something shifted within Sarah. It wasn't just about sharing recipes, it was about unraveling a part of herself, something deeply personal. They spoke of cravings not as failures, but as normal, navigating the complexity of choices in the pursuit of wellness. Every moment of vulnerability seemed to draw them closer, both to each other and to their audience. But insecurities clawed back. Would the audience accept their imperfections, or would they crucify her for eating ice cream while preaching health? The fear of clashing opinions stirred a cocktail of dread and determination within her. "And let's talk about our guilty pleasures," she said, a sliver of rebellion sparking inside her as she embraced the objective of weaving honesty into their narrative. The words tasted liberating. Food is not just about fuel, it's about joy, connection, and yes, sometimes indulgence. As they built their pantry staples visually, every cut of the knife and sprinkle of seasoning became a metaphor. It was their way of illustrating balance, finding health amidst indulgence. Each piece came together, creating a vivid picture not just of a meal, but of a lifestyle. When the recording ended, Sarah felt exhausted yet invigorated. A catharsis washed over her as she reviewed the footage. Was it enough? She couldn't shake the fear that permeated her thoughts. She had stepped onto that tightrope, but the ground below felt unsteady. "Do you think people will like it?" Sarah asked, her voice softer, as if the vulnerability seeped into her question. "Of course. They'll love you for being real," Lily shot back, unyielding in her faith. In that moment, nestled in her granddaughter's unwavering confidence, Sarah realized the depth of her own fear. Was she afraid of what strangers would say, or was she more concerned about the validation she sought for her choices? The stakes were high, and despite the thrill of unveiling a part of herself, the potential harshness of the digital world loomed large. Resolved yet anxious, she turned back to review one more time, a single thought surfacing in her mind. This venture wasn't merely about food, it was about confronting who she was. The moment had come to invite everyone into her kitchen, but would they be welcoming, or would she find herself torn apart by the very same critique she feared? Just as she was about to sink into thought, a notification pinged on her phone, the first comment about their video. She hesitated, finger hovering over the screen, heart pounding like a drum. What awaited her on the other side? The moment of truth was at hand. As the notification blinked with an insistent glow, Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. It felt as though the very air shifted around her, pregnant with expectation. She thought of the countless hours spent working on this project and the layers of her being she had peeled back in front of the camera. This comment represented not just feedback, but perhaps a verdict on the sincerity of her evolution. She summoned the courage to tap the screen. The word comment appeared, and with it a rush of adrenaline coursed through her, a fleeting mix of hope and dread. "This is the kind of thing that people have been waiting for," the comment read. "But it could go wrong if you're too personal." Her heart sank as she read it again. Was this admonishment veiled in encouragement, or a warning shrouded in critique? It echoed her inner fears, affirming the nagging notion that transparency could backfire. What had she truly expected when she decided to be open? "See," Lily said, noticing her expression. "You're making an impact. One person's opinion won't define you." But it wasn't just one opinion. It was a doorway into her insecurities, making her question the authenticity of their entire message. Had she ventured too far down the rabbit hole of vulnerability? The thoughts spiraled, multiplying her internal conflicts. Was it time to embrace her truth fully, or should she draw back, cloaking herself in safety? I think I need to ponder this, Sarah murmured. There was an unsettling truth that these early responses would shape their trajectory. The stakes were rising, and she felt the pressure to recalibrate her approach. Lily's eyes flickered with concern. We'll adapt. That's the beauty of it. We can be flexible. She took a deep breath, observing the youthful determination radiating from her granddaughter. But was flexibility rooted in courage, or was it succumbing to fear? If she abandoned her authenticity to accommodate critique, what would that say about the foundation of their project? I know you're right, Lily, Sarah replied, covering her indecision with second thoughts. It's just, if I'm being completely honest, I'm terrified of revealing too much. What if they judge my experiences? But that's where your power lies. People connect with authenticity, not perfection. That statement struck a chord. It brought to her mind an image of her younger self, a woman lost in a world of expectation, straining to fit into molds crafted by society's whims. She traveled back in time to the countless social engagements where she performed roles dictated by her fears. Could she extend that leap of faith now to reclaim that thread of courage hidden beneath doubt? With halting resolve, she retrieved the footage again, dissecting each segment. As she watched herself speaking about indulgence, she realized that perhaps it wasn't just a conversation about food. It was a narrative about self-acceptance, wrapped in the very layers she feared exposing. An idea sparked. Instead of viewing these comments as hurdles, perhaps they were an opportunity to add dimension to their work. What if we host a live Q&A, she suggested suddenly, a tentative excitement building within her. We can address those comments directly, make the conversation even more interactive. Lily jumped up, clapping her hands in approval. That's brilliant. You could share your own story, connect with them live. Was this the pivot she needed to embrace? The thought electrified her, a chance to confront critics head-on and to illuminate her journey in an engaging way. As she finalized her decision, determination began to wrestle with her lingering insecurities. Just as she felt a rush of adrenaline surging through her veins, another notification popped up. This one read, "Can't wait to see more. Be yourself. That's all we want." It was a simple affirmation, yet it stoked the flames of hope within. Sarah knew she was stepping into unfamiliar territory, risking exposure and vulnerability. Glancing at Lily, she felt a spark of resolve. Perhaps the fears she carried weren't about the audience at all, but about her own acceptance of imperfection. Tomorrow, she would cast aside those fears. She was ready to confront the critic, both externally and within. The moment of truth had morphed into an invitation for dialogue, and with that thought, the ghost of past worries faded slightly. She wasn't merely sharing recipes, but crafting a narrative of resilience and growth. Would the risk reap a story worth telling, or would it expose scars she wasn't ready to reveal? Excitement thrummed in Sarah's veins as she prepared for the live Q&A session. The day had dawned with a renewed sense of purpose, a day when she could take control of her narrative, an empowering dive into the depths of her experiences where vulnerability transformed into strength. She stood in the kitchen, the sun streaming through the windows, glinting off pots and pans like a stage awaited her performance. The camera, a digital eye of scrutiny and support, sat poised on the counter, ready to capture whatever lived within her that day. Minutes ticked away as Sarah rehearsed in her mind. Readers would not just want to see her, they would want to feel her. This was her chance to transcend the barrier between creator and audience, to reveal the woman behind the recipes. But doubt clawed at her resolve, whispering the same old fears. What if she stumbled on her words or faltered under scrutiny? What if they saw the flailing, imperfect parts she despised? As the clock neared the hour, she practiced her introduction in front of a mirror. "Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, and today I want to share the real journey I've been on." Her voice wavered a little, but the reflection looking back at her displayed a woman daring to embrace her truth. She believed in her story, despite the turbulence of past judgments. When the stream finally began, Sarah's heart raced. Comments flickered on the screen as viewers joined, some eager and others wary. That's when she spotted it, a name she recognized. Margaret, an old friend from her past, someone who had always embodied perfection. Instinctively, Sarah's walls began to rise, a protective urge to hide. If anyone could judge her, it would be Margaret. Yet the moment she opened her mouth to welcome everyone, an unexpected warmth filled the room. I'm here to explore how we can transform our relationship with food, but more importantly, our relationship with ourselves. Let's break down the barriers that tell us we're not enough. With that single sentence, the floodgates of authenticity swung open. As she navigated through questions and comments, her initial nervousness was replaced by genuine connection. A question from a viewer about battling insecurities surprised her, and instead of deflecting, she shared. I've always feared that exposing my vulnerabilities would make me look weak, but maybe it takes more strength to embrace them. The comments surged with agreement and stories of their own struggles. Each shared memory resonated within her, echoing sentiments she had considered isolating. Sarah paused, realizing she wasn't just in front of the camera. She was building a community. As questions turned personal, a new layer of courage unfurled. A woman asked if it was too late to change her eating habits. It's never too late. Change is a journey, not a destination, Sarah replied. Each answer emboldened her, as authenticity breathed life into her message. By revealing her own missteps, blushes, triumphs, she felt another step towards acceptance, both of herself and others. Then, just when everything seemed to align, the atmosphere shifted. Margaret's name appeared in the comments. Is this really the best advice you can offer? You seem more confused than inspiring. A rush of tension twisted Sarah's gut, a pulse of challenge threatening the new foundation she was building. Deep breaths. She needed to decide, would she let the specter of her past define her present? Or would she stand firm, grounded in the truth she had just begun to uncover? The tension hung heavy as Sarah pressed her lips together, the weight of vulnerability battling against her instinct to retreat. Time slowed. All eyes were watching. In that moment, the choice between authenticity and defensiveness crystallized before her. The systems she had constructed in her mind told her to quell the burgeoning truth, while an exhilarating new strength urged her to speak. "This is me, flaws and all," she finally declared, her voice unwavering. "You can decide what I am to you, and I accept that." What followed was a chorus of responses, support, skepticism, advice, and stories, flooding in at once, but none could predict the greater battle on the horizon. Could Sarah navigate this new layer of exposure? With a heart full of courage and her past chasing her from the shadows, the true test awaited her just beyond the screen. And as she sat, alive with the thrill of engagement, another click echoed through her phone, an unexpected message from an anonymous account. Real growth comes when you face your fears. Are you ready for the next step? Would she have the courage to confront this new challenge? As the digital screen flickered softly with a new message buzzing through her phone, Sarah felt the pulse of adrenaline rush through her. Real growth comes when you face your fears. Are you ready for the next step? The anonymous words sank deep, igniting a quiet storm of both anxiety and exhilaration within her. The Q&A had ended, but the thrill of vulnerability lingered, wrapping around her like a second skin. With shaky hands, she closed her laptop and set it aside, her mind still abuzz with the faces she had just connected with. Each question and answer replayed in her mind, a film she could not turn off. What was this next step? Sarah's heart raced at the thought. Was it the idea of delving deeper, perhaps tackling those insecurities that Margaret's comment had evoked? She sighed, a heavy weight resting on her shoulders as she remembered the sting of that challenge. Margaret had always represented the unreachable ideal, and there she was again, perched on the sidelines with her wit ready to slice through glimmers of confidence. Determined not to be paralyzed by her past, she stood up and paced the length of her kitchen. The space felt small, the walls encroaching as if to remind her of the boundaries she'd long set for herself. Cooking had always been her comfort zone, a well-worn path where she thrived, yet the realm of public opinion was like stepping onto uncharted grounds. The faint smell of fresh herbs and spices, remnants of her earlier culinary experiments, hovered in the air, beckoning her back to the moment when vulnerability had transformed into community. She paused to gather her thoughts, eyes landing on the vibrant new cookbook she'd been flipping through. Each recipe was a reminder that transformation was a series of careful steps. But as she picked it up, inspiration struck. Perhaps the next move had to do with confronting the shadows of her uncertainties, not just in her cuisine, but in the broader scope of life. What if she could create something that would resonate with others who faced similar doubts? How could she intertwine her culinary journey with personal growth in a way that felt genuine? Opening the cookbook, Sarah flipped through its pages, searching not for just new recipes, but also for a direction. With each turn, she imagined pairing food with stories of her struggles, fortifying them with lessons learned. What if her next streaming session could revolve around not just cooking, but exposing her evolution? The successes and setbacks that shaped not only her recipes, but her very essence. It was then that an idea began to crystallize. A series based on confronting fears, tackling the very notion of perfect. She envisioned segments on cooking while discussing real-time challenges in her life, such as dealing with judgment or the societal pressures that were often wrapped around food. Cooking as a metaphor for growth, each ingredient representing a part of her journey. Growth, struggle, acceptance. As thoughts flowed like the ingredients she would soon chop, she began drafting a broad outline. Each episode could tackle a specific fear, unearth hidden truths, or facilitate a vulnerable discussion about the imperfections of her culinary adventures. And just as inspiration surged, another ping from her phone jangled her focus. Sarah glanced at it, her heart skipping. A comment notification from the earlier stream glowed brightly on her screen. A viewer named Jace wrote, "I love your perspective. Can you share more about how you found acceptance in your own journey? I'm on my own path." It dawned on Sarah that engagement could open doors, a chance to connect deeper, to teach others by revealing her struggles. This could turn into a catalyst, not just for her, but for the people who followed her. With renewed clarity, Sarah picked up her laptop again, fingers hovering over the keyboard for a moment before she typed, "Let's go deeper. Join me in a project about overcoming fears rooted in food and life. Comment your thoughts, and let's begin this journey together." Before she could second-guess herself, she hit send. A sense of liberation rushed through her. She could feel something inside waking up, a determination to not only share, but also learn from this path. Each message, challenge, and comment would only add more layers to her discoveries. But outside her kitchen window, the sun was beginning to set. It cast long shadows across the countertop, a reminder that darkness often followed light. With an inner resolve forming, Sarah felt the stirrings of doubt again, a familiar pulse that warned her of the risks involved. Was she truly ready to unravel the layers of herself before an audience? The question hung in the air as she gazed into the dusk, contemplating the journey before her, feeling the stirrings of courage now inching closer to liberation. The time had come for her to confront those hidden fears and confront the very essence of who she was. With her heart pounding, she whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." And as the darkness crept in around her, another notification lit up her phone, an invitation to an upcoming panel discussion titled "Facing the Shadows: The Intersection of Food and Personal Growth." The next step had arrived. With the invitation glowing brightly on Sarah's phone, a mix of thrill and apprehension coursed through her veins. This was more than just an event. It was a defining moment, an opportunity to step onto a platform that encouraged empathy and personal storytelling, an arena that promised connections and validations outside the confines of her kitchen. As she read the details, uncertainty knitted itself into her thoughts. How could she participate in a panel about embracing imperfections when the specter of Margaret's judgment still lingered? Could she truly lay bare her vulnerabilities in front of a wider audience, the very imperfections she had been trying to embrace? But this moment mirrored her evolution. It beckoned her to rise above self-doubt and reclaim her narrative. Facing the shadows wasn't just a theme, it was her lived experience, embodying the very struggles she had begun to navigate. Sarah felt the pulse of courage throbbing in her chest. She had mentored Lily through their journey, transformed her relationship with food, and even crafted connections with an online community. Surely she could tackle this next challenge. The following days became a fevered whirlwind of preparation. Sarah delved into crafting her thoughts for the panel discussion, intertwining her journey and food. She surrounded herself with notes, excerpts from past video segments, and personal reflections. Each piece she organized illuminated transformative connections between her culinary and emotional struggles, the interplay of nourishing the body and healing the soul. Yet amidst this creative surge, trepidation bubbled to the surface. The day of the event arrived, shrouded in an eerie calmness that enveloped her as she entered the venue. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Other speakers mingled, their laughter echoing reassurance that this was a space built upon authenticity. But when she eyed the audience, familiar nervousness sank its claws into her. Would they resonate with her revelations? As she climbed onto the stage, a profound wave of vulnerability washed over her, tightening the knot in her stomach. Each eye that locked onto her felt like a magnifying glass, dissecting her every flaw and insecurity. In stark contrast to the comfort of her kitchen, this felt like uncharted territory. "Hi, everyone," she began, her voice tremulous at first. "I'm Sarah, and I stand here today not just as a cook, but as someone who's navigating the often messy terrain of life's expectations." The words tumbled forth, hesitant yet raw. She recounted her story of loss, of the tender relationship with her son, of the fear that almost stifled the joy of cooking. As she traversed the path from clinging to traditions to embracing healthier options with Lily, a warmth filled the room. The audience leaned in, some nodding as they resonated with her vivid portraits of struggles and triumphs. In those moments, she transformed. Each story she shared unveiled another layer of her, and with each breath, she exhaled the fears that weighed her down. Details about joint culinary experiments with Lily, the tensions that once filled their kitchen, and even the backlash they faced resonated with collective understanding. The anchors of her previous anxieties began to dissolve. She infused her narrative with humor, vulnerability, and authenticity. When the discussion opened to questions, hands shot up eagerly. Voices rang out, sharing their personal struggles along with questions that flowed seamlessly from fear of judgment to the pursuit of acceptance. Sarah felt the shift. This wasn't just a platform. It was a sanctuary of shared stories. "Could you share the strategies you use to keep your relationship with food positive?" one participant asked, prompting Sarah to reflect on her growth. "Absolutely," she responded, invigorated. "By acknowledging my cravings and allowing indulgence in moderation, I discovered that it wasn't about deprivation, but rather about forming a nourishing relationship with myself." Nodding heads and murmurs of agreement rippled across the room. In that moment, she realized that her journey had been a series of small victories and thoughtful reflections, not just on food, but on life itself. As the session wrapped up, applause resounded like a symphony, and Sarah felt an overwhelming wave of acceptance wash over her. She wasn't just championing healthier recipes, she was advocating for a mindset that embraced imperfections and encouraged growth. Walking off the stage, a familiar face lurked among the crowd. Margaret, her old friend, approached, her expression inscrutable. Heart racing, Sarah braced for judgment. Instead, what came was an unexpectedly sincere apology. I'm sorry for any negativity I may have projected, Margaret admitted softly. Your journey is inspiring, and I'd love to connect further. A rush of relief flooded through Sarah. The act of presenting who she was had not only freed her, but had also invited understanding from an unexpected source. In the weeks that followed, the ripple effect of the panel reached beyond a singular event. New connections blossomed. Invitations for collaborative discussions came pouring in, and Sarah realized that she had emerged transformed. Not only had she succeeded in sharing her story, but she had ignited a spark within others to confront their own fears surrounding food and health. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah started holding community workshops, helping others create nourishing recipes while sharing stories of resilience just like hers. As she guided participants through their cooking journeys, the realization settled over her. This, the intersection of food, storytelling, and personal growth, was her calling. No longer was she trapped in the chains of guilt or fear tied to her past. Instead, she stood tall, embracing the narrative she had woven through insightful dialogue and heartfelt connections. She had conquered not just her fears, but emerged as a recognized advocate for authenticity within the culinary space. In the heart of their kitchen, bustling with laughter, they created something beautiful together, just as she had once dreamed. Each meal became a celebration, each shared experience a step toward growth. As their relationship flourished amid the spices and aromas, Sarah's gratitude surged. "Let's document this journey as it unfolds," Lily suggested one afternoon, handing her a camera to capture their culinary escapades. And with resolute confidence, Sarah embraced the opportunity, inviting the world in, her version of health and creativity, rooted in love, imperfection, and shared growth. The journey remained far from over. The adventure had merely begun. Join Sarah's thriving community of transparently authentic voices and elevate your understanding of food and life. You need to subscribe now to stay up to date with her latest insights and stories that will deeply resonate with your journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this transformative experience with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Leave a like now to fuel the momentum of our community. Comment below your thoughts and any personal experiences you've had on this journey. Your voice matters.